Attar is my guide, Attar is my guide. By the grace of Allah, Attar is my guide. My Murshid has changed millions of lives. The prophetic Sunnah, he is revived. The leader of the Sunnis, he is our pride. By the grace of Allah, Attar is my guide.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen. Amma ba'd. Fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulallah. Wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabiyallah. Wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Noorallah. Dear Islamic brothers, dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel, we welcome you back to another beautiful episode of the silsila, Discourses of Attar. At the beginning of the silsila, please make as many good intentions as you possibly can, that I will listen to the silsila for the pleasure of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. I will note down the important points, I will try to practice upon them, implement them in my life, and encourage them to my family members, my spouse, my children, my friends, my society. Like this, inshallah ta'ala, try to make as many more good intentions, whatever you can think of. And in this way, you will gain more rewards, insha'Allah ta'ala. There are many benefits and blessings in reciting abundant amounts of durood and salat upon Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam. One beautiful hadith, the summary of which is, our master, the owner of Jannah, the knower of the unseen, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam, has stated, that person who recites durood, salawat or salutations upon me 1,000 times daily, he will not die until he sees his place in Jannah. Subhanallah. Sallu ala al-Habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Salatan wa salaman alayka ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It is narrated in Tirmidhi Sharif that the beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wasallam said, do not become an imitator, O people, saying, if people do good, I will also do good. And if people behave cruelly, I will also conduct cruelty. But settle your nafs that if people do good, you will do good as well. And if people misbehave, then you will not oppress. Dear Islamic brothers, dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel, have you noticed how wonderful Madani pearls regarding the beautiful conduct with the Muslims have been taught by our beloved Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam? The awliya Allah, the saints rahimahumullah ta'ala, had been very meticulous and sensitive regarding huququl ibad, human rights. And they were very careful in fulfilling those rights. Therefore, Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mubarak, rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, he stayed in Sham, in Syria, for a few days. There, he would write a hadith. Once, his pen stopped working, his pen. So he borrowed somebody else's pen for the certain period of time. He had forgotten to return it, and unintentionally, he carried this pen back to his homeland. When he recalled that this pen does not belong to me, Sayyidina Abdullah bin Mubarak, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, again traveled all the way to Sham, to Syria, from his country. Why? Just to return the pen that he had borrowed. Subhanallah. Dear Islamic brothers, dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel, have we realized, Subhanallah Azza wa Jal, our saints, rahimahumullah ta'ala, they would fear Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. They would fear Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal so much regarding others' belongings. Unfortunately, today, we are becoming fearless in this regard. Remember, presently it looks easy to keep somebody else's property or belongings intentionally. but it will be very painful on the day of judgment to pay the compensation to its owner and to satisfy the owner. Therefore, care must be taken as regards to even little things. Anything that belongs to another person, whether it's a person's shawl or towel, bedding, chairs, whatever it is, etc. These should never be used without permission. Permission is not required if there already exists general permission from the owner of these things. For example, if one is a guest at somebody's home, it is understood, it is common that the owner has no reservations for the use of such things by the guest. It is often seen in the masjid that some people use other people's slippers or sandals or shoes for going to the washroom without the owner's permission. They use these footwear, these shoes. Apparently it seems to be an insignificant matter. But think for a while. You wore somebody else's shoes and went to the washroom while its owner comes along in order to go home. Realizing that his shoes are missing, he thinks that it may have been stolen. Or so he leaves barefooted and frustrated. Even though you placed the shoes back in its original place when you returned, but its owner has lost it. Who is to blame here? Obviously it is you, and you will be termed as somebody who is cruel. How pathetic is the condition of the cruel person that it would be on the day of judgment. How pathetic. Sayyiduna Shaykh Abdul Wahhab Sha'arani rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi has said, under some cases, the madhloom, the oppressed person, will still not be satisfied with the cruel one, even after taking all of that person's good deeds as compensation for just a single act of oppression. This is why our saints, rahimahumullah ta'ala, they used to be very, very careful about those matters that appear insignificant and trivial. Sayyidina Imam Muhammad bin Muhammad Ghazali, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, has stated, mushk, which is an expensive perfume, fragrance, was being weighed in front of Amirul Mu'mineen, Sayyidina Umar bin Abdul Aziz, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, who is considered as the first mujaddid, reviver of Islam. This mushk was being weighed in front of him for distribution amongst the Muslims. He instantly covered his nose so as to prevent himself from smelling this fragrance. When people saw this act, he radiyallahu ta'ala anhu clarified, to smell the fragrance is its use. Since mushk is present in front of me in a large quantity, therefore I can smell its fragrance more than other Muslims, and I do not want to benefit more from it as compared to the other Muslims by smelling more fragrance than others. Subhanallah. May Allah Azza wa Jal have mercy upon him, and may He Azza wa Jal forgive us without accountability for His sake. Ameen bijahin Nabiyil Ameen sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi has stated in Kimiyya-e-Sa'adat that a saint, a wali, was sitting beside a sick person. The person died by the will of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. Great compliments to the Madani mindset of that saint that he extinguished the lamp immediately and said, now his inheritors also own rights in the oil of this lamp. Subhanallah. May Allah Azza wa Jal have mercy upon them, and may we be forgiven without accountability for their sake. Ameen bijahin Nabiyil Ameen sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Look at this, dear brothers, dear Islamic brothers, dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel. What a marvelous mindset, a Madani mindset, our pious saints rahimahumullah ta'ala had. We cannot even imagine such a mindset for ourselves. The awliya rahimahumullah ta'ala, They would shiver in the fear of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. They would not be forgetful about their maut, their death, nor negligent in the matters of the qabr, the grave, and the hereafter. The issues one has to confront in his grave are very, very serious. What will happen to us? We are heedless, we are negligent of our graves. It is stated in Ihya'ul Ulum, Sayyidina Sufyan Thawri rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi has stated, one who recalls his grave often, he will find it to be a garden of Jannah, of paradise, after his death. And the one who forgets will find it to be a pit of Jahannam. Remember, taking care of the rights of your small Madani children is also absolutely necessary. Showing carelessness or negligence regarding their rights is detrimental and dangerous, and giving attention to their rights may lead to Jannah, paradise. Therefore, Sayyidina Muhammad bin Ismail Bukhari alayhi rahmatullahi al-Bari has reported in his most famous hadith collection, Sahih Bukhari, that our beloved mother, Ummul Mu'mineen, mother of the believers, Sayyidatuna Aisha Siddiqah radiyallahu ta'ala anha has said, a lady came to me with her 2 daughters and asked for some help. At that time, I had only a single date, khajur, so I gave it to her. She divided this khajur, this date, into 2 pieces and gave 1 piece to each daughter. When Ummul Mu'mineen, the mother of the believers, Sayyidatuna Aisha Siddiqah radiyallahu ta'ala anha, related this incident to Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam said, one who has been gifted with daughters and he treated them with good conduct, then these daughters will become a barrier for him against Jahannam. Subhanallah. They will become a barrier for that person against the fire of hell. Allahu Akbar. Amirul Mu'mineen, the second Khalifa of Islam, the second successor of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, His Eminence, Sayyidina Umar al-Faruq al-Azam, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, would never exempt anybody regarding the rights of beings. The king of Ghassan had recently embraced Islam. And this made Sayyidina Umar al-Faruq al-Azam radiyallahu ta'ala anhu very happy, as it created a hope that the people of that king's kingdom will also come into the folds of Islam. During tawaf of the glorious Kaaba, a poor Bedouin, a villager, unintentionally stepped over the clothes of this king. The king slapped him in anger with such force that this Bedouin, this villager, he lost a tooth of his. The Bedouin asked for justice in the court of Sayyidina Umar al-Faruq al-Azam radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. When the king admitted that he had indeed slapped that Bedouin, Sayyidina Umar al-Faruq al-Azam radiyallahu ta'ala anhu said to the oppressed Bedouin that he may take qisas and revenge from the king of Ghassan. The king said resentfully, how is it that an ordinary person can be equal to a king and has the right to take revenge from me? Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu said, Islam has made you equal to each other. The king sought respite for 1 day for the qisas, the revenge. But he escaped at night and became a murtad, an apostate. Tubu ilallah, astaghfirullah, sallu ala al-habib, sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Dear Islamic brothers, dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel, Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu did not show any leniency even towards the king of Ghassan. The renunciation of Islamic beliefs and becoming a murtad, that is, giving up Islam and becoming a non-believer, a non-Muslim, becoming a murtad of this king did not cause any harm to Islam. Besides, if Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu had shown leniency, the image of Islam would have been spoilt, since a concept would have developed in people's minds that, ma'adallah azza wa jal, Islam cannot force the strong people to restore the huquq and the rights to those who are vulnerable. It was the blessing of this fair, this justice, that once in summer, Sayyidina Umar al-Faruq al-A'zam radiyallahu ta'ala anhu was asleep without the security of any guards. He was asleep under a tree with his head lying on a rock when an envoy of Rome reached him. The emissary became astonished to see him sleeping in that condition, and he wondered as to whether this is the same person from whom the people of the whole world trembled. Then he said, O Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, you do justice and safeguard human rights, so you sleep even on the rocks, whereas our kings, they oppress the people, trample on their rights, so they cannot slumber, they cannot even sleep in their beautiful and comfortable beds. May Allah Azza wa Jal have mercy on him and forgive us for his sake. Ameen bijahin Nabi al-Ameen sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Just realize the danger, or the extreme danger, of the outcome of cruelty. And in this case, the outcome or consequence of cruelty that caused the king of Ghassan to lose his iman, to lose his belief and become a non-Muslim. Sayyidina Abu Bakr Warraq rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi has said, oppressing the people often becomes a cause of deprivation of losing iman, losing faith. Someone asked Sayyidina Abul Qasim Hakim rahmatullah ta'ala alayhi, is there some sin that can deprive a person of his iman? He replied, there are three causes for the deprivation of iman. Number one, not paying gratitude and shukr and thankfulness in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal for the bounty of iman. Number two, not possessing the fear of losing iman. And three, oppressing a Muslim. Our saints, rahimahumullah ta'ala, they have set the striking examples regarding the care of human rights, the care of huququl ibad. Therefore, Sayyidina Imam Abu Yusuf, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, one of the greatest students of Imam Azam Abu Hanifa, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, Imam Abu Yusuf, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi, was the chief justice of his time. The chief justice of his time, and he refused to accept the testimony of Fadl bin Rabi', who was the trusted minister of the Khalifa Harun al-Rashid, rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi. When the Khalifa Harun al-Rashid, alayhi rahmatullahi al-Majid, asked the cause of his refusal, Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi said, once I heard it myself, that he was saying to you, I am your slave. If he was truthful in his statement, then he is not eligible to testify in your favor, because the testimony given by the slave in favor of his master is unacceptable. And if he had told a lie just to flatter you, even then his testimony is unacceptable, since one who can dare to tell a lie openly in your royal court, how can he refrain from false testimonies in my court? Allahu Akbar. Dear Islamic brothers, dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel, have you realized Sayyidina Imam Abu Yusuf rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi was so intelligent, so careful and meticulous and impartial in the matters of adl and justice, that he did not hesitate to reject the testimony of the minister in favor of the Khalifa. It is worth noticing here that sometimes inattentively or to flatter somebody, one declares himself as a servant or a slave of another person. But the sentiments of the heart, the feelings of the heart, are the opposite to the statement. May our hearts, our tongues be aligned and equal. Our saints, rahimahumullah ta'ala, they would take great care in this regard, and they would say what they truly believed. Therefore, His Eminence, Sayyidina Imam Muhammad bin Sirin, alayhi rahmatullahi al-mubin, asked a person, "How are you?" He asked a person, "How are you?" The person replied, "How would one feel? How would one feel when he owes a debt of 500 dirhams and has to look after his households in the state of poverty?" Sayyidina Imam Muhammad rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi brought 1,000 dirhams from his home, and while delivering the money to him, he said, "Pay your debt of 500 dirhams and keep the rest for your household." After this incident, Sayyidina Imam Muhammad rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi committed to himself that he would never ask anybody's condition in future. Hujjatul Islam, Sayyidina Imam Muhammad bin Muhammad Ghazali, alayhi rahmatullahi al-wali, said, Imam Ibn Sirin, alayhi rahmatullahi al-mubin, committed not to ask anybody about his condition in future because he was of the viewpoint, if I asked somebody and he told me his problem and I did not help him, then I would be considered a hypocrite in this regard. Dear Islamic brothers, dear viewers and listeners of Madani channel, have you realized? Our saints, rahimahumullah ta'ala, were so straightforward, so truthful. They believed that unless one has true sympathy for the other person and true sympathy from the depths of the heart, he should not ask about his condition. And if on asking his condition, the person informs of his problem, then he should be helped out to whatever ability you can. Remember the saying of Imam Ibn Sirin, alayhi rahmatullahi al-mubin, I will be termed as a munafiq, a hypocrite, if I could not help somebody in trouble, refers to munafiq amli, and nifaq amli is not kufr, not disbelief. May Allah Azza wa Jal, for the sake of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, for the sake of His mercy, include us amongst those who show shukr, who show gratefulness for His bounties, who follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, who do not violate human rights and huququl ibad. Ameen. Bijahin Nabi al-Ameen sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Attar is my guide, Attar is my guide. By the grace of Allah, Attar is my guide. My Murshid has changed millions of lives. The prophetic Sunnah he has revived. The leader of the Sunnis, he is our pride. By the grace of Allah, Attar is my guide.